This is Link to the Cast, your weekly dose of video games and nerd culture ephemera, available everywhere good podcasts are sold. I'm your party host, Dave Ryan. We've been fucking deserted this week because the only co-host I have with me, the only co-host that matters because he didn't abandon me in my hour of need, is Mr. Chelsea, Jack Lazell. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad. I think did this with Mark last week, did it with you now. Yeah. I think
there's my audacity of saying the only one that didn't abandon me when I wasn't on the last episode. It's not lost on me.
Well, I need to do one with Garrett now. Just Garrett. Do you know it's the only configuration of this podcast that's never happened before?
I heard it's because you two have heat with one another.
Yeah, it's because we secretly beef. It's not. I'd probably just spend most of that time just going, Garrett, I like you.
You're afraid he's going to drop like a Christmas quiz on you.
No, it's more just awkward. I'll probably just spend the time like just complimenting him like relentlessly just to see if I can break him, because he's like a hot takesman, right?
See if he will in fact cross the line.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
How's your week been, pal?
Yeah, not too bad. Bit of a sense of loss this week. As I was saying to you a bit before we started recording, everything just started to end this week. It was the last episode of Succession. It's the last episode of Barry. It was the last episode of Taskmaster. The Premier League season came to an end, although I'm pretty happy about that.
Chelsea's remaining credibility.
Yep. All of that comes to an end in the same week. And then you're sort of looking at the world like, I mean, what am I going to do? I'm even getting, like towards the end of Tears of the Kingdom now. So I'm starting to panic.
You're Quagmire emerging from the house with the one incredibly muscular arm.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Burned by the daylight because now you have to do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Although Final Fantasy 16 is only 2 weeks away as of recording this right now, Dave. So,
and we're entering summer blockbuster season. And it feels like, in terms of movies, there actually is like big ticket stuff coming out a lot this summer.
Yeah, well, Across the Spider-Verse just came out today as well.
Yeah, Fast X just out a couple of weeks ago. We've got the incredible doubleheader in one day of Barbie and Oppenheimer. And like, I don't know if you were reading the stories out of Hollywood yesterday, but like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning wants to release the same day.
Really?
Apparently Tom Cruise was going around to cinema chains in America and demanding that they drop one of those two films.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, there's something about, somebody was talking about how if you look at all the last few Universal Studios big tentpole movies, they have released either right at the same time as, or just before something that's going to absolutely blow them out of every cinema.
Yeah.
Fast X a week or so ago, and now we've got fucking Across the Spider-Verse is going to just wipe the floor with it.
Yeah,
I'm quite sure. And then there's a couple of other examples that were cited on Twitter, but yeah, like it feels like there's actually reasons to go out to the cinema this summer, which is quite exciting for once, and none of them have anything to do with Marvel now that Guardians has been and gone.
Yeah, it's the next Marvel movie, The Marvels.
Yeah, which is like the end of the summer, I think.
Because I say it's quite a way away now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's not really
Secret Invasion is happening during the summer on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've quite liked that they've sort of paused the Disney Plus Marvel shows for a while now.
They were fairly battering us with that between the 3 to 4 movies and the 3 to 4 series a year for a couple of years.
Yeah, it was all too much.
Yeah. Even if the quality of those movies hadn't dipped, which they certainly did.
Yeah.
It would have been too much.
The risk
Marvel's is out in November, by the way.
Yeah, okay, so even later. So the risk of like rehashing the Marvel conversation as well, like the last series of The Mandalorian was pretty weird. Like, I'm still not over that. Like, I still don't feel like I know if I liked it or not. Do you ever have that feeling with a show where it's a show you like and they do like some weird stuff, some unexpected stuff in the show, and you just, it takes you a while to kind of get over like, was that good? Like, I'm still thinking about what they did with Barry, but I completely don't want to spoil it for you because I know you're probably still making your way through that. But they made a choice in the last series where I'm like, not sure about this. And even when I was talking to friend of the show Barry Murphy on Twitter, I still didn't want to kind of, just in case you read that tweet of me being like, they made a choice halfway through the season. I'm like, I don't know about this. I mean, they kind of stuck the landing for the choice they made, but and Mandalorian.
I had seen a cryptic Barry tweet. I think it was Barry anyway that said like when the whatever that thing was happened, he was just like, oh, they damn well better stick the landing. Like it's kind of whatever the decision was. Seemingly, it's one of those where like you need to have a pretty good reason to do this or a pretty good follow through, or this will be real dumb in hindsight.
Yeah. the button they put on the show, like the last few minutes of the show, is really creative and a very interesting way to end a series, and really good meta commentary on just the way we consume things. That's all I'm going to say. That's quite bland, I think. Like, you can't really, that's not spoiling anything. But yeah, it was interesting, and I kind of watched it and I'm like, I wonder if Bill Hader had pointed the whole season towards just wanting to end the show that way. And like, perhaps he thought, how do I jump it into this position so this happens? And he sort of wrote backwards from it or not. I'm not sure. He talks a lot about being influenced, because he went to the set of Better Call Saul and, you know, hang out in the writer's room there, and, you know, being influenced by that sort of really kind of fusing drama and comedy and suspense and all of that together. And I think there's elements of that, like in this season of Barry, but I mean, I guess I'm just talking about Barry now. What a great show. But the thing that I really took away from this season of Barry, which I can talk about without spoiling anything from you, is Bill Hader became an incredible director this season. Like, genuinely, some of the shots in this season, and in the last episode in particular, there were like 2 really, really powerful shots. And I was just like, holy shit, like, that is amazing. Like, really, really impactful. Just like, whether it's like a slow pan or like an artistic direction or like a jump cut used like really, really effectively. And yeah, I looked at that, and I think the biggest influence that he took from this is, because, you know, but Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul just has like a really specific visual style where there'll be a lot of emphasis on like objects and bits of environment and stuff, and like, you know, you might fixate on something like, I don't know, there's like one where there's like a spilt ice cream cone and there's loads of ants all over it in Better Call Saul, one of the seasons, and like you see it at the start of the episode, and then they like link it back to the moment in the episode where something happens that involves it.
The famous Breaking Bad one was like the burnt up bear in the swimming pool.
Yeah, like that foreshadowing where you knew something terrible was going to happen, but you didn't know what it was. And I think there've been elements of that in this season of Barry. Like, it's been an interesting ride, and again, it's like story wise, you know, I'm not 100% sold, but the visual style of the show this season has been impeccable, and it just makes me want to see Bill Hader just do like, just here you go, like, Bill Hader, there's like $50 to $80 million, just go make a really cool movie, or like go direct a new series or something. Did
he you can spoil this if you want, did he at any point this season essay the role of a 19th century German soldier who lost his arm in a duel?
It's funny you should mention that. But no, that is of course an extremely strange bit that he did with Conan O'Brien. We don't do podcast recommends that often on the show. I know I used to do them on and off, but I am so into like the Team Coco universe of podcasts. There's like there's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, which is where like he interviews celebrities, really long form chat, and you forgot in amongst like all his incredible bits he's very famous for that Conan O'Brien's actually a very good interviewer as well. Yeah, he's brilliant. He was the best out of all of those guys. He's and the best all rounder. Like apart from like I guess like Letterman, he would say himself was better than him, and you know, Carson is not our generation, but he was the god. You know, definitely better than the slate of people we have now. Even though I'm quite partial to Seth Meyers. I think Seth Meyers is the best of who's left now. Yeah. But that bar is just dropping every time one of the big boys leaves. Do you know who I'd love to see get their own show? Who? John Mulaney. Yeah. I wouldn't want to see him stop doing stand-up, though, is the thing. No, I know. And, like, look, monologues, I guess, are your own little opportunity to do, like, a stand-up thing or whatever, but I'd love to see if he could do that for, like, a couple of years. I think he'd just make an incredible chat show host. Well, if Seth or someone like that did the thing that Carson used to do towards the end, where he'd take, like, the summer off. Yeah. And there'd be guest hosts. Unfortunately, in his case, the guest host was always fucking Jay Leno. But like, if they got actual good guest hosts, Yeah.
And John got to go. Like, it was actually really fun when Jimmy Kimmel got COVID like a pair of times and had and there was another summer he took off and he actually had like different guest hosts. Did you see the one? Did you see the one where Andy Samberg and John Mulaney hosted Kimmel, and the first segment was John Mulaney interviewing him, and then they switched roles and did the same interview but reversed positions?
No, I haven't seen that.
It was when Chip and Dale came out. It's very, very good.
Oh, mate, yeah, I'm all over that. Oh, well, yeah, so he's already done it then. I didn't even know.
Yeah, like just a little bit. I remember Brie Larson hosted Kimmel. I think Chelsea Handler hosted. They got like a bunch of people in on Kimmel.
Yeah.
Was that just a reflexive Ralph Garman to Chelsea Handler's name?
Yeah.
Speaking of podcast references. But the other Conan podcast I want to mention was Inside Conan, which is a really good podcast. It's hosted by like his two main producers, which is about like they're going back at like famous Conan bits or shows and explaining how everything came together, and they'll bring on special guests that were involved, like they did a few weeks ago. You will love this as somebody who loves Conan's bits from his show. They had Jordan Schlansky on to talk about the trip to Italy he did with Conan, which is, it's so good. The whole theme of this season of the podcast is the different international shows they did, because Conan's doing a travel show for HBO.
Wow, is he? Oh, that's gonna be great.
It looks really good. I meant to send you the trailer actually, but he's like perfect for that. Like, it's basically Travel Man but Conan, so I'm in.
He's just a very likable, affable gentleman, isn't he? Like, no one seems to have, aside from Jay Leno, no one's got anything bad to say about Conan.
And even Jay doesn't have a bad word to say about him because he won.
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not where the bad words are coming from. It's coming from Conan and David Letterman, who just lives to spite Jay Leno.
Yeah, I've never watched David Letterman. Is it like Apple or is it no? It's Netflix, isn't it? He has his
Letterman's show now is on Netflix. Yeah, and he was CBS.
Yeah, and he does like an interview series on there, doesn't he?
He was the original. He made Getting Screwed by Jay Leno cool before Conan was ever around.
Yeah,
I'm actually reading at the moment The Late Shift, which is the book about the Carson abdication from the Tonight Show and the fallout from it. It's really fucking good. I know it got made into a TV movie at one stage, which I've never seen. But it's excellent, an excellent book.
That's one of those ones where I'd much rather either read it or like listen to the people involved talk about it.
Well, it is on Audible.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately not read by David Letterman, which would have been very good.
Yeah.
A very good bit. What else have you been watching this week, my friend?
Yeah, so I mean, I quickly touch on Succession. One of the best shows of all time, I think now. Stuck the landing in a way that was just so perfect. The three children in Succession, and I'm going to be kind of vague because I do really want you to watch Succession at one point. They all have qualities that would like lend towards them taking over from the big dog, their dad Logan Roy, aka Brian Cox. Like, all three of them have that, like, these little kind of, windows.
Brian Cox, not that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these little windows of light, and you're just like, okay, maybe this person will, inherit this and this, and this season has kind of really shown up that, like, as much as they all have this within them, not a single fucking one of them is anywhere near close. So like the desperation from them all, like towards the end of this season, to be in line for the Great Succession, and then seeing how it kind of ends up, because there's always like a winner in a show, isn't there? Like, that
was the whole, like, remember Game of Thrones? Like, people got obsessed with who's going to win the Game of Thrones, when one, that wasn't the point.
No.
And two, it was an absolute shitter of an ending anyway.
Yeah, let's just give it to Brandon Stark. Like, what? Why? Like, I still to this day, like, I haven't gone back and rewatched season 8 because why would you?
Why would you? Yeah.
I almost feel like the earlier seasons of that show are tainted as well now, knowing how it ends up, because you watch them and it just reminds you how good it once was. So in a way, I think from Succession's point of view, it's smart to get out after 4 seasons of this show, because like halfway through the first series, this thing fucking hit its straps. Like it started like it's charged towards great show, like fucking Man City in sort of like February. Like the show just picked up and just got the ball and ran with it. And since that point onwards, and like there's the turning point episode where they have a board vote to decide whether Brian Cox's character stays or goes, right? And that from that episode, when you watch it, Dave, from that point onwards, that they just understood the characters. They knew how the characters were going to relate to each other. They knew what their place in the show was, and you could see that they kind of had a plan, and everything started making sense. It was almost like Jesse Armstrong, who created the show, who also created Peep Show and Fresh Meat, which are 2 excellent Channel 4 comedy series for anybody.
Extremely different.
Like very different shows from Succession. But he just started, all of a sudden, he's like, okay, I get these characters now. I know where I'm going, and bang. And they just, they knocked it out of the park. The finale was so good. It was an hour and a half long. And just, it went by in a flash. It was exactly the ending, the show, because I heard people saying, oh, my favorite character didn't end up in a good situation, or, my favorite character was screwed and all of this. And I'm like, if anybody watched Succession and paid attention, you will know that the way the show was being written was towards the people that in the end were, in a better situation than others, and that the people that had a shit situation were always going to end up in that shit situation, because you saw it time and time again. Like there's one particular character in Succession, Dave, who in pretty much every season of Succession, shit goes so wrong for them, they're just doing some sort of slow, painful George Michael in Arrested Development style walk where everything's gone fucking wrong. And like the
Charlie Brown walk.
The last episode, you're like, is this person going to end up in that situation or not? Not going to spoil it, but if you've been paying attention, you know what's going to happen with this person. So yeah, it was very, very good. Kieran Culkin as well has like come out of this. I think the 3 people in particular, like Sarah Snook, who I didn't really know, who plays Shiv in the show, who just insanely mercurially brilliant actress. Matthew McFadden, who plays Tom Wamsgans. I almost feel like the name Wamsgans now is going to become a thing. Where people are wary of climbers. And I bet in the business world already, in corporate America, I bet people are being likened to this character because it's just a shameless fucking climber. And you can see kind of how he gets on in the show. And then Kieran Culkin as Roman is just, he's so perfect. He's just a little deviant fucking smart ass prick. And he knows a horrible little wanker that you wouldn't want to associate with, but he's insanely watchable. And his stock must have gone through the fucking roof after this show, It's one of them shows where I think the actors and actresses in this show are going to be showing up in stuff for years and years to come, because everybody is going to want a piece of the Succession. And I think I'd be interested to see whether or not it kind of ends up having even spin-offs, or like people make him like revisit something in it, but I kind of hope it doesn't. I kind of hope it's just preserved in Carbonite as just this fucking excellent one-off 4 series bang and done kind of show. But that's Succession. The only other thing I said I was going to talk quickly, and then I couldn't because it's so good. The only other
never talked briefly in his life, Jack Lazell.
Yeah, if you hear me go just a few minutes on, it's probably going to be a bit of a thing.
He's gonna cut it down into the edit. It's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. I have my own knife. And I told you this a few weeks ago. I chop more of myself out of this show than I chop anyone else out of this show. So yeah, there you go.
Well, that's because you keep using racial epithets every second or third word you have to do it.
They're just too funny, Dave. I can't stop myself. Anyway, Poker Face is a show I've watched this week. It's Natasha Lyonne. It is created by Ryan Johnson, the mastermind behind Knives Out and many other excellent films such as The Last Jedi and mine and Dave's fave, Looper.
Yes. We are two of the remaining Looper stands on Earth.
Yep.
And we're also two of the high men on Last Jedi.
Great movie. Would have been so much better if they just went with Reyes. No one comes from nowhere.
Best of the sequel trilogy by a mile.
Yeah. Because then anyone could project Jedi onto themselves, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of the best things about, the Wizard book series that appeared from nowhere, written by no one.
Yeah.
Like, you could potentially get that letter from that school and be a wizard and you just wouldn't know.
Yeah. So
Spider-Man is the same. Anyone could be Spider-Man. Yeah, Poker Face. Not many people could be Natasha Lyonne. Natasha Lyonne, I don't, how do you feel about her? Because ever since, oh, mate, the first time I saw her in American Pie, I was like, she's the fucking coolest person in this movie.
She's like the cleanup hitter, as always in that kind of a role in movies for so long. It's like when you see her get her own thing now, it's like, hell yeah.
Definitely. And, she's had some struggles with addiction and she's been through a lot. But she just fucking, this show, she's just, it's like a love letter to just how good she is, how likable she is of a character, how much of a brilliant smart ass she can be as well. But the rough story of it is, she has the innate ability to tell when people are lying or not. So as a result of that, she finds herself working in a casino because she went into said casino and was trying to basically play poker and play blackjack against the dealer, and obviously knew if they were lying or not with what their cards. Was caught by the pit boss and taken to the casino boss and basically said I know you're cheating, I don't know how, but I'll give you a job if you stop cheating in my casino. So that's where she is. And in the first episode, the person in charge of the casino is now Adrian Brody, who is the son of Ron Perlman, who is the main sort of antagonist / boss figure of the first series of Poker Face. And yeah, she has a bit of a set to with him, and then spends the whole rest of the 10 episodes kind of on the road, essentially going through rural America and always ending up in these scenarios where people she was near or involved with were murdered. And then her doing her best to kind of figure it out. So there's a bit of the whodunit element, but who done it. It's the joy of it is watching her kind of figure out from the main characters whether they killed the person or not, and just piecing the evidence and stuff together. And you know what? It's really good. It's a really compelling show. It's insanely bingeable. It's really easy to watch. It's not heavy. Some murdery shows are really heavy and dramatic and stuff. It's not. It's kind of breezy. It doesn't have the same energy as Knives Out. There's not the weirdness and the looming presence of Benoit Blanc.
Bizarre camp energy.
Yeah, exactly. There's less bizarre camp energy in this. But if you want bizarre camp energy, just watch Fast X and Jason Momoa. Why not? Yeah. That's some bizarre camp energy right there. Yeah. Great show, really good, really breezy, really good to watch. Definitely been set up for a second season as well in terms of the way it ends. And I thoroughly recommend it, especially for you, Dave, because I think you would particularly enjoy this show.
Yeah, I'll get, again, much like Succession, it's not that I don't want it, it's just it's on the list. And obviously I'm in the middle of season 8 of Frasier, so I've got real prescient things to cover.
Also, me and you, mate, we as well as recommending stuff to each other, because we're super into TV and film, and we're always kind of probably talking about it with people around us or people we know. I don't know about you, but I get recommended so much stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So it just becomes dizzy.
If you get the tag amongst people work wise or personal life wise, as being a pop culture guy.
Yep.
Yeah, recommendations out the wazoo. Funny enough, as somebody who hosts podcasts about video games and wrestling, those are the two I get the least amount of recommendations for. Movies and TV shows and music all the time. All the time I'm getting recommendations for. Yeah,
I'm sorry for battering you with them as well, because I know I get the same thing.
That's all right.
It's dizzying, but in my head I feel like I understand you better than most people that probably interact with you. So I'm I know Dave would really like this.
Yeah, we've rarely. I don't know if either of us have ever missed with a recommendation for the other.
No, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, not that I can remember.
You can just pretend to hate one of these shows if you want.
Hey, speaking of ones, I can't remember if I talked about what a pleasant time I had recently watching Confess Fletch.
Great movie, right?
It's like it's I don't know if I go so far as great. I think it's a great good movie.
Yeah,
I think it's like an absolutely rock solid 3.5 star motion picture.
it's like in those, you know, we don't really have them anymore, but those mid-tier movies with a mid-tier budget where it's not like a B movie or an art house movie or something you'll see at Curzon.
Do you know what it is? It's in the vein of the like pretty good but inessential comedy. Like the modern equivalents would be like a game night.
Yeah.
You know, those ones where like I enjoyed that while it was there. I may never watch it again, but I had a hoot. So good on you.
Definitely. And if you had to watch it repeatedly, you probably could as well, because John Hamm is like, I don't know, my takeaway from watching this was like, I could watch like 5 of these and I don't think I'd get sick of them.
So they had been struggling for many years, Hollywood, to reboot the Fletch series. So Chevy Chase had done it twice with Fletch and Fletch Lives. And, you know, for a long time, if you follow him, you know that Kevin Smith was attached to do a Fletch movie.
With Jason Lee, wasn't it?
With Jason Lee. Got very far along. Like, script was written, Lee was cast and everything. And I can't remember how that one fell apart, but it did, nonetheless.
He'd have been excellent at that, by the way, Jason Lee.
The thing about like notorious arsehole Chevy Chase is that like in the roles he is most famous for, he is one of those that you can't, it's so hard to imagine anyone but him playing those characters. Like you couldn't imagine anyone else as Clark Griswold. Couldn't imagine anybody else as Pierce Hawthorne. Community. No. And for the longest time you couldn't imagine anyone as Fletch. And what I really like about this, apart from the fact that they finally found somebody that works as Fletch in John Hamm, is that this is, I think, the first time I've seen a movie that's able to tap into the innate wacky comedy sensibilities of John Hamm. Because I feel like SNL and, you know,
Tag. Do you remember
Bridesmaids?
Tag?
Yeah, Bridesmaids and Tag have all gotten somewhere along the way. But I feel they've all felt like him appearing in an SNL sketch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And rather than like a fully, like he's just part of an ensemble doing a wacky thing. Whereas this was like hung up on him being charming and funny and weird. And for the first time, I think they've nailed it. And look, you know, I have some element of sympathy because, like, when you see John Hamm, you think Don Draper, and that is not a funny role at all. Like, he has unfortunately, in a way, typecast himself. In spite of his, like, his clear yearning to do comedies and his enjoyment of comedy and his background, like, he's friends with a lot of comedy people and things like that. But this is like just a fun little caper of a movie. Where he's sent to Italy to recover his girlfriend's multi-million-dollar art collection, which brings him back to America to chase down an art dealer. And like it's one of those where the actual plot, there's like little bit of kind of feels like an old detective novel, like just with a bit of levity, where like, you know, there's the reveals and who could it possibly be and things like that. It's not quite like Knives Out levels of cute or anything like that, but it's got that kind of, you know, pulpy detective feel to it as well. But the story doesn't really matter as much in this, I don't think. Nor the reveal. Like, it is all about the characters playing off each other. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I enjoy. There's people in this that I absolutely love his dynamic with. I love his dynamic with Marcia Gay Harden, who's like the Italian duchess who's married the girlfriend's father.
The Contessa.
The Contessa, yeah, who's just like constantly accidentally walking in on John Hamm in states of undress and trying to sleep with him. Pretending like she's the one being seduced. Like, I think that's a good running bit. It was great to see him and John Slattery engaging under different circumstances. And I love the Daily Show's own Roy Wood Jr. in this as well.
I was going to say, if
great.
you don't give a shout out to Roy Wood Jr., he was fucking quality.
The two detectives, I can't think of the name of the actress who was the junior detective with him, but she was fucking great as well. But he's John Hamm is great in this. He has a lot of personality. It's witty, if not laugh out loud funny, and it's only an hour and a half long. So it's one of the better, more interesting things I've seen on Paramount Plus outside of Frasier, to be honest.
It's like a good date night movie as well. Like I feel like, you could throw this on, watch it with your partner, your significant other, and like I feel like no one is going to hate on this movie. Like no one has a visceral reaction to Confess Fletch. It's a cozy
movie, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And the stylistic nature of it, like you say, that old pulpy detective feel, like the soundtrack as well feels very sort of 70s movies, and they've just nailed the whole aesthetic.
So the other thing I watched, I was in the office today and I was the only one in, and when that happens, I usually take my laptop out inside into the open area because it's a big 4K TV, and I stick something on in the background while I'm doing my work on the laptop. Because I'm not disturbing anyone then. And my initial plan was to go in and watch Into the Spider-Verse because I'm watching the new Spider-Verse tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But I learned that it's been pulled down off Netflix. It used to be on Netflix. It's not there no more.
It's on Disney Plus now.
It's not on Disney Plus either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I imagine maybe if Disney Plus are going to get it when it comes out, the new one comes out, they might do a 1-2 like they're doing with the Raimi Spider-Man.
Sure.
But anyway, I was like, okay, what am I going to watch? And I don't know how. I was just browsing through Disney Plus to see what's there. What kind of stuff on Star, or what movies do they have that I didn't know they had? And I landed on a movie that we both know very well, Idiocracy.
Oh, I haven't seen this in ages.
And I haven't, because I've been watching King of the Hill for a while there last month. I was just like, hey, there's a Mike Judge joint I haven't revisited since probably college.
By the way, Mike Judge, fucking class, right?
Great, really great comedy writer. And again, this is one where I don't think this is an absolute stone cold 4.5 star movies. I think it's probably in that maybe 4 on the nose. Or a 3.75. I think it's very good and it's very funny. But I don't think it's I don't think it stands on the pantheon of all timers either.
No.
And I still, now I haven't watched it in many years, but instinctively I would start saying that I prefer Office Space to this still.
Yeah, Office Space is a classic of its genre. It's pretty much a perfect movie for what you would want from that.
Yeah. It's interesting that Maya Rudolph is class in this movie. As the female lead, and for somebody who, much like yourself, Jack, watched a lot of SNL the last 10-15 years or so, it's a relatively muted performance from her.
Yeah, she does normally go pretty big.
She she normally enters a scene at a 14 and only goes up from there. But it's so weird in this movie that is anything but subtle to say that her performance is subtle, but for her it's quite toned down, because it kind of needs to be. Her and Luke Wilson kind of need to be. It's their blandness and your ability to kind of transpose yourself onto them as just being average people. He's a dude who was coasting through a military career doing nothing in an archives office. She's a woman who was she's a prostitute that she makes a gag early on to Luke Wilson that she's an artist, and he just never figures out that she's not. And it's true there, completely being bang average at life in the 20th century that makes when they get frozen and sent 500 years into the future, their absolute mediocrity makes how dumb everybody else is really funny. And I had forgotten how much I enjoy Dax Shepard in this movie.
Do you know what I was thinking when you started talking was like, I want to do a sidebar. What the fuck happened to Dax Shepard?
Addiction.
Oh,
he's clean. He's clean now.
Yeah.
And he has a pretty damn good podcast. In terms of like, he's one of those that like gets a lot of celebrities to open up about like real personal shit and struggles and stuff like that, because he's obviously been through a lot of them himself. And he's very like frank about his own struggles as well. And about how like his wife, who's Kristen Bell, like very much helped him through all that and things. And it's very touching. I listened to an episode a few months ago about with Anna Kendrick, somebody who doesn't normally give very serious interviews. Like, she's always very like light and sarcastic. They did a very long interview about like her being through a horribly abusive relationship, like just, I think it was right up until and perhaps slightly during lockdown. I think it had only ended a couple of years ago. So like, yeah, just really good, insightful podcast, but not a fucking light one. Definitely not an idiocracy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is Dave's podcast of podcasts here.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, just getting out all the ones that I could have recommended in the last few months and never did. But yeah, Dax Shepard is great in this as Frito. I love some of the stuff they've done. Like, you know, the whole conceit of the movie, if you've never seen it before, is basically that idea that had been, it was a panic amongst a very small subset of people in the early to mid 2000s that like, people with higher than average IQs and higher than average socioeconomic standing were having fewer kids. And this took it to very much the extreme that only the dumb people were having kids, to the point where 500 years in the future, only dumb people are left. And they're doing stuff like they have completely replaced water with a drink called Brondo, the thirst mutilator. Like they have gone through a Dust Bowl type famine because they've been watering all the crops with Brondo, not realizing that that's probably not good, because the slogan for Brondo is "It's got what plants need."
The thing I love about that choice as well is it's almost like there are two types of movie in the way that they future bias. They either future bias to the point where everything is super techy and crazy and, you know, like Back to the Future with hoverboards and flying cars and shit. Yeah. Or it's an insanely dystopian, horrifying place where like some sort of, you know, virus or global event has fucked everything up. Nobody flashes forward into the future and they just go something crazy like, what if everyone was just dumb?
And it's like, and there's so many of the classic like Dave and Jack jokes, by which I mean like Route One dumbass jokes. There's a scene right before the freeze where like the chain family restaurant Fuddruckers is mentioned, and then immediately when he's unfrozen he finds the 2505 equivalent of Fuddruckers that is now just called Buttfuckers. and it's still a family restaurant. Or the bit where like Starbucks is now like the equivalent of a air quotes massage parlor, and latte is Starbucks code for hand job, because this is a bit where he's like, oh god, I could really use a Starbucks right now. And Dax, who's like, you know, is kind of their Sherpa through dumb USA, is kind of like, look, we'd all like a hand job right now, man, but that's not gonna solve anything.
He's the thing I like about him is like, them two, they're kind of portrayed as like really bang average people of their age, whereas he is like, you know, the same level as them from a societal perspective in the future, but he is like so many notches below them. And because he's
also a successful lawyer, Frito. Exactly. That's how he shows up, because like Luke Wilson's pod crashes through his house, and then like he gets arrested for not having the barcode on his hand, and he's at trial. Stephen Root is the judge, by the way, and all of a sudden Dax Shepard rocks up beside him as the public defender.
Yep. Yeah.
Obviously, like the one everybody talks about is Terry Crews as President Camacho, and he is fabulous. To give him his full
name, President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho. Dave.
Yeah.
I had to look that up because I was like, I remember Terry Crews' character having the fucking wackiest shit name in this. So.
Yeah. It's a really fun little movie. Justin Long has a great bit part in it, as well as a doctor. I think, is he the doctor? No, there's another doctor that does the thing where he gives him like 3 pods and he goes, this one goes in your mouth, this one goes up your nose, and this one goes in your butt. And then he goes, oh wait, no, sorry. And he mixed them all up and he goes, this is the one that goes in your butt. So he's like, Luke Wilson's very hesitantly trying to make sure he doesn't pick the wrong one. Like everything is corporately branded and so like everything is so played up to like the absolute extreme in this, and yeah, it's really good. It's fun, but it's not like, it's just that level below being a proper classic of the era, I think. But I still have a real soft spot for it, I think.
It's the sort of movie that like only Mike Judge could do a thing like this.
Yeah,
like he has a very specific brand of offbeat weirdness.
Offbeat shenanigans.
Yeah, just doesn't... Like, he takes... the thing that I love about him is he'll take just general, like, normality or, like, a stance or a perspective or a type of character and just push them just to be a little bit surreal. Just gives, like, a bit of a very... like an odd feel, like a unique brand. Like you watch it and you're like, this definitely is a Mike Judge movie, whether it's in the way the characters interact or like the world is just slightly twisted in an obvious dimension. And yeah, it feels Mike Judge has a feeling in particular. And you never watched Silicon Valley, right? Did you?
I watched the first couple of seasons of it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Can't remember why I fell off it in the end. Oh, I think it was around TJ Miller that I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, well, that stuff came out and they bounced him from the show. Like,
yeah,
right away.
It was right around that time that I think I stopped when it was like he hadn't yet been removed from the show, and then because I had stopped watching it, I just never got back to it.
Yeah, no, they bounced him. Like right away when all of that stuff came out. And it's a shame because he was so fucking funny on the show. Oh god, TJ Miller, you massive bellend. Because I really used to enjoy his particular brand. But yeah, that is a very good show. And I'd thoroughly recommend anybody go and watch that. Another HBO show as well.
Yeah. Let's move over to video games. And I'm going to go first, just because it's your Elden Ring minute. That is never just a minute. But I'm at now 149 bosses felled.
Christ on a bike.
So the move towards the platinum trophy and the full clear of all bosses moves on. Now it's worth noting, I don't think I had specified that before, Jack, that you don't have to beat all the bosses to get the platinum. You have to beat all the trophy bosses, and then you have to collect all the legendary armaments, all the legendary spells and incantations, and then there's another collect all of XYZ, and then there's a couple of challenges in it, like fully upgrade a weapon, fully upgrade this, blah blah blah, and then get all the endings. But thankfully you can like reload saves and you don't have to like play through, because it's like 5 or 6 endings, I think 5 or 6 canon endings. So I would just not do that to myself. But I am currently for people, and by people I mean Sean McGee, to know where I am. I was chatting to him a little bit about it on Twitter this week, but I'm just wrapping up the Consecrated Snowfield at the moment, which is like the 3rd or 4th last big area in the game. It's the second of the kind of the snowy biome after the mountaintops of the giants. Jack, I might have mentioned on the show before, one of the last big boys, and he's one of the last mandatory boys in the game, is the fire giant, who was one of the ones I had been worrying about. There's like just a small number of bosses left that I'm like, I worry, is this where I hit the wall and can't pass? But I to my shock, I downed the fire giant in one. So that was a real that has given me the motivation now to keep going. We're heading next towards Crumbling Farmazula as my next one, where there's a pair of trophy bosses, Malekith the Black Blade and Dragon Lord Placidusax, who is the toughest and final of the dragon bosses, that has 2 heads, lightning power, a whole fucking shit show. And then after that, the only one I'm truly worried about, that we have mentioned her name in hushed tones on this program many times, is Millennia Blade of Mikola, who is the one that even the seasoned players think is a fucking, like, there's so many, I've seen so many videos and articles that have rated her as arguably the hardest boss in any Souls game ever.
Wow.
That does not help me.
Because Sekiro?
including Sekiro. So I have. I'm not looking forward to it. You know, it's from two parts of her arsenal. One is the fact that anytime she strikes you, she replenishes her health, and the other one is
all the way to the top.
No, not all the way to the top, but like huge chunks.
Yeah, like a leech seed.
Yeah, and she has one of these attacks that's called like I can't think of the name of the attack, but it's like a flurry of sword spinning, and it's nearly impossible to dodge, and she will hit you 4 to 5 times if she catches you, which will almost certainly obliterate you, and if it doesn't, it will almost certainly refill her health.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a bad time, and she's a 2-phase boss as well, so you have to get her entire health bar down twice.
That's stressful.
Yeah.
Are you under 100 to go now?
I am under 100 to go of all bosses in the game, and it's one of those where like I'm kind of, I haven't been dropping back to older areas. I'm kind of just progressing as I beat everything that's near gear I need to pick up. I'm then kind of moving on. So there are, like, if I went to Nightjack and just went back to all the old areas where I haven't fully cleared them out yet, I could probably get to, like, by the end of tonight, 165 bosses.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Because like there are areas towards the beginning of the game, like Limgrave, where you start, where I think I still have 3 bosses in that area I never beat.
That tree sentinel.
I beat him I beat him before I left. But like,
do you know what? It would be awesome if that was like the last boss that you had to beat that you saved.
Well, I've beat. There's this will horrify you, is that when you get to the capital, now they're not a necessary boss. You can run away from them, but on the way into the Lendel, the royal capital, you have to fight 2 of them at once.
2 tree sentinels.
Yes. This is one of the things about the game that sometimes I'm like, yeah, cool, and sometimes I'm like, Jesus Christ, is that for most forms of field bosses, at some point in the game, Elden Ring goes to you like, what if there were 2? Oh, God. So there's multiple times where you fight like multiple Crystallians. You fight multiple Knight Riders at one point. You fight 2 gargoyles at the same time. You fight I remember if you fight, I don't think you fight like Godskin apostles, 2 of them. That's like one of the tough ones I have left. I can't remember if you don't fight 2 dragons at the same time. That's one of the ones that they couldn't be that mean. But it's interesting that because they have these some of the recurring bosses, if during one of the early ones you figure out a gimmick that works for you, it makes all of them substantially easier, even late game. So like Deathbirds are one we talked about on the show originally, that when like Garrett, Mark and then me started running into Deathbirds, I don't think you got far enough to meet your first Deathbird, did you?
No, if I did see one, I probably ran away from it.
Yeah, they're one of the 2 nighttime bosses, so them and the Night Riders only come out at night. And there's one in Limgrave, but he's like, he's up like you would have to go really off the beaten path in Limgrave to find him. Do you know where you go up that really windy hill towards Stormvale Castle?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. So where you go up that windy hill, like where that goes right, you go left, and it's somewhere off there at night that you find him, I think, if I remember right. But something I found out during, I think, my second Deathbird fight is that they're super vulnerable to holy attacks. So I have my Morning Star enchanted equipped with holy energy, and pretty much every Deathbird battle since then has been just like, I don't even get off my horse. Like that's how straightforward it is.
Bit like using a Phoenix down on an undead enemy in Final Fantasy.
So I go farm Azula, and then I'm pretty sure it's on to where the Halig tree or Millennia is, and then we are in Endgame, where I'm going for the Ashen Capital and hitting the last mandatory bosses. And like I would say, like if I really focus down, I could probably have this beaten by the next show. I probably won't. But I could have the game beaten once by the end, by next week if I wanted. That's how close I am. But because I'm doing it the kind of roundabout way, I've still got 3 large areas to explore. But it's like I was saying to you off the air, like every time I play this for a long period of time, it starts creeping up my all-time list. It's one of the best realized open worlds I've ever played. And it's interesting that like we're talking about this in conjunction with Tears of the Kingdom that you're about to talk about, because I couldn't rank one ahead of the other, because I think in some ways they're doing the same thing, but in other ways they're doing it completely differently.
Yeah.
And each borrows from the other in certain ways, but it is chalk and cheese, fundamentally.
I didn't bounce off Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. But people do bounce off those new ass Zelda games. Yeah. But anyway, Elden Ring, very, very good. And it makes my heart swell how proud I've made Sean McGee. I thought about framing the tweet he sent me this week where he said, "You've become more of a Souls guy than me." I was like,
wow.
That was one of those not likely do the leaves of Lorien fall moments. Not often does Sean McGee bestow that kind of statement upon somebody.
You've got to go and beat Sekiro now.
Never, because even he hates that shit.
Yeah, well, I know. He was on I think like a week after he beat it, he was on the cast just saying how he like set the controller down and was genuinely emotional when he finally beat the final boss. Yeah,
I don't think there's a world in which I'd be good at that game, but I also don't think like out of, camaraderie with Sean, on the like 1 in a million chance I end up like being decent at it, I don't think that's something my Souls playing friends could accept. Like could compute. It's like, because very much like this is why I'm still expecting to hit the wall, because I'm like, I surely can't be on the cusp of beating a Souls game. No way, not me. Not the guy who struggled with like beating the very first boss in Dark Souls 3 for several hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, what can you do? Elden Ring, very, very special game.
I don't know if I ever beat a boss in Elden Ring.
I
should. Played it for like maybe 10-15 hours, and I didn't want to play. I didn't like want to fight a boss.
I can guide you towards one that's pretty easy. Just to like, you could do like I did in Dark Souls 3. My thing with Dark Souls 3 was like, I'll play it until I beat one, so that I can say I've beaten one. Yeah. Like I could probably get you to Margit, the Fellowman, who's like the first non-field boss, and it's pretty doable.
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Oh, I'd be very tempted to Sherpa you, just because it could be one off the bucket list for you, pal, and I believe in you.
I don't think it's.
But anyway, let's talk about a game that is for you.
Yeah, let's talk about a game where I look at how many hours people on Nintendo Switch that I am friends with have played this game. And there's a lot on there. There's like sort of, your 50.
I don't think I've hit 30 yet because of the aforementioned Elden Ring.
Yeah, like 75, all of these kind of. And then I look at my own, and it's 160 hours.
Jesus wept. Now, you, in your defense, weren't you on holidays for the first week or two of this game?
Yeah, I had the whole week off work.
I'm trying real hard to give you some credit here.
But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's 160 hours. It's, as of today, it's been out for exactly 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, but it's like, in your defense, it's not like you've been bounding out to see some compelling Chelsea performances.
No, but I have averaged, according to my maths here, I have averaged 7 hours of 7 hours and, about 35 minutes of Tears of the Kingdom per day since it came out, which is mad because
it's longer than I sleep a lot of nights.
It's mad because there have been entire days where I've just played like half an hour here or there, like not really, and I'm playing it after work and stuff. Sometimes I play a little bit at lunchtime and work, if I actually not have any meetings or anything, but I've hooked into this game like even deeper than I think I did with Breath of the Wild. I just can't stop like wanting to do everything in the game. So as of this week, I have now conquered all 152 shrines in the game. Which, I mean, Dave, like, fucking
upsetting.
That was hardcore. Yeah. Like proper hardcore. I've lit
like
up
I'm considering a welfare check level.
I've lit up all 120 routes in the depths, so everywhere I go in the depths is nice and light and bright for me to see. I've been farming like Lynels and Gleox, which are like the harder of the boss and just random enemy encounters in the game, to get basically the more you farm Lynels, the better stuff you have to attach to your weapons. So one of the cool things about the depths is you would have noticed there's loads of soldier statues everywhere, and the gimmick is if you break weapons in the overworld, so say you come across like a really good weapon like a cobble crusher or something like that, if you break it in the overworld, it then all of a sudden it will go into the pool of weapons that exists in the depths. So there are plenty of soldier statues around just holding weapons, and the good thing about the depths weapons is they're not corrupted. You know how like all the weapons are corrupted, therefore the durability is even worse on some of them unless you attach like really strong materials. So like me having loads of various Lynel like horns and maces and stuff means that I just constantly got a good stream of go through the depths, get a bunch of like untainted weapons and just bang all of the Lynel stuff to them, and then Bob's your uncle. I'll have like enough to take down like multiple bosses and stuff. And yeah, I've beat all of the main 4 temples in the game now as well. So I mean, at the point I am now, I've got like 35 hearts because of all of the shrines. I've just got like absolutely crazy amounts of resources.
How many stamina wheels?
I have 3 stamina wheels. Yeah, 3 full stamina wheels and 35 hearts. Yeah, like if I was gonna,
sick bastard.
If I was gonna,
as the great George Michael once quote, sick fucking bastards.
Yeah. If I wanted to go and finish the game, like, tonight, I could as well. A bit like you with Elden Ring, where it's like I've just...
And I don't know if you saw our group chat shortly before we came on, but our good friend Matt Niner just accidentally beat the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I assume the final battle was Ganon. I would imagine, right?
Yeah, well, I think... no, he was referred to in our group chat by, I believe, the word Dwarflad. So he might be called Dwarflad.
Dwarflad, yeah. Why not?
My favourite Sith Lord was Dwarflad.
Well, Ganon, brought to you by Lad Bible. Dwarflad. No, I think I'm kind of at the point now where I could pretty much call it a day if I wanted to. But I'm just still having loads of fun just going to different places and beating quests, going like down all of the different quest lines. I don't think I'm that much of a sicko that I'm gonna like get the 1,000 Korok seeds like that.
But you're not ruling it out fully.
No, I'm not. I just don't want to. Like, do you know what the worst part is if this was a PlayStation game and there was a trophy for collect all Korok seeds, Dave, I'd really consider it.
Can we stop for a moment? It's fucking insane they don't have their equivalent of trophies and achievements still on Nintendo.
On Nintendo, yeah.
That had been rumored since before, like back when the Switch was just called Project NX. It was like, trophy compatibility is coming to this thing.
Oh, they do. It's one of the things I don't mind about it though, is that
because it's the only thing keeping you from like being a hermit.
Exactly. Like how many Korok seeds, whatever it is, 200 odd Elden bosses that you want to beat. If you're like asking me how many fucking Korok seeds I'm up to on a weekly basis, I don't want to be that guy. Like, it's fun and challenging to see like weird humanoids with like bits of dragon fused to them that are trying to hack you apart. Whereas finding an annoying little leaf prick who's bouncing around who will like flub up a target for you,
waiting there to be crucified.
Yeah, I don't like. It's not my bag. I can't be bothered with that. One of the things I've been doing as well is trying to collect all the pieces of armor, and just trying to get the resources to max them out. So I've maxed out a bunch of the armor now. Like I have the full Zonai armor, and you get like a really special armor that I won't spoil for anyone that hasn't done it.
Does the Zonai armor look better than? Because I didn't like the Guardian armor in Breath of the Wild. Aesthetically,
it's a bit it basically, imagine like a Roman centurion costume is what it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can deal with that.
But one of the cool things is if you go to Hateno Village, you can dye it.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the way it looks, you can, you know, like when you dye it, you'll dye like the leathers and the headpiece because it's got like the Roman, you know, like the sort of brush on the helmet style Roman centurion thing. This is going sideways rather than forwards though. But you can dye that whatever color that you like, which I think is cool because a lot of the armor and like costumes and stuff are like, you know, specific colors and you might not dig that, and I think the dye thing is very interesting as an option that you can just pretty much customize the look of everything if you want to. Like I quite like bright yellow a lot of the time because it just really makes me stand out, and it matches Link's hair. So like with the Roman centurion costume, you've got like the bright yellow sideways looking mohawk with the yellow hair coming out the back.
Golden god. Oh
mate, yeah, I look like a fucking boss man. Absolutely loving life. Yeah, I know I'm coming to the end, I think, of time with this game, which is insane because I've spent so much time with it, but it's just been a really brilliant experience. Like even going to the different shrines, a lot of the time, you know, I feel like it would have felt like a grind in a lot of other games, but the physics puzzles in each one are different and fun, and some are challenging, some are easy. You know, some make you feel like a genius, some make you feel like, you know, the dumbest guy on the planet, and then you see the really obvious solution like after about 20 minutes and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. I think the only shrines I don't like are the ones where they just take all your weapons away and they're like just fight constructs. I kind of find those a little bit grindy and boring because I'm like, yeah, you know, I could do without these really. But the puzzle ones are just super cool. And I like the ones where you have to do something in the overworld, like whether it's like beat a boss or, you know, negotiate like the big green crystal you get down some sort of like interesting pathway, or yeah, just, you know, the Sky Islands one where you have to move it from like one island to another. Yeah. And there's a couple that are like that. There's some that are easy where it's a bridge and a puzzle that you can access to get it and do it. There are others where it's like a long way away, or you have to be like a massive flux construct to get it, or you can just sort of smash the flux construct a few times, take the crystal and run, and yeah, like get on a wing and watch it sort of throw stuff at you. Yeah, just love the game, love it. Coming to an end with it now. I think this time next week I probably will have finished it. I think I would have done a lot of the quests I wanted to do and picked up all the armor and had my experiences and my fun with it, and then yeah, I'll be just waiting for Final Fantasy 16 to come out. Will probably be my next project, but I have loved this game. It's been exactly kind of what I've needed. Jedi Survivor was very good going into it, and I thought, like, you know what, Jedi Survivor is going to be one of the better games I play this year, and it's just like absolutely eclipsed that in every way. And yeah, it's been a really emotional journey, and I've loved it to a degree, like head and shoulders, I think, above what I got out of this to what I got out of like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is very much more of a tone piece. It's more of a feels game. It's, you know, very much based around the exploration, whereas in this it kind of feels more like you're rewarded for the exploration. Just, you know, it doesn't overwhelm you with, you know, dots and maps and all of this sort of stuff, but it does give you like a nice quest log and you know where to go, and you know, it does help you along in that sort of direction. It's just a fucking great game, and yeah, I've loved my time with it. So massive salute to Tears of the Kingdom. I'd be very interested to see where Garrett's got to, and then I guess where you are as well in it now as well. But obviously you're doing your Elden Ring marathon, and I think you're at a modest, what is it, like 20 hours or something?
Yeah, I've hit 20. I don't know if I've hit 30 yet because I haven't actually looked at the game clock in a while. I literally haven't played, I'd say, in about 3 days, and not for like, again, when I have a busy day, I normally like to hit the 3 tentpoles of my game playing at the moment. I'll do a little bit of Tears of the Kingdom, I'll do a big chunk of Elden Ring, and then I'll polish off the night with a couple of games of FIFA to kind of like relax the brain, take the mind off something less intense than Elden Ring. But like, it's kind of when things get really busy, that just peels down to just a bit of FIFA because after a long day in work, my brain can't handle exploration and focus.
No, fair play.
But yeah, I very much look forward to, and I'm trying to kind of like, I'm seeing all the videos of dumb stuff people are doing, but in terms of like where stuff is and shit like that, I have stayed relatively spoiler free, so I don't know a lot of like solutions to things I haven't done yet, and I don't know a lot about what different bits of gear and stuff like that are out there for me to find, short of you get that mission early on at Skyview Tower. It's like, here's 4 like decent bits of gear for different kinds of areas in the game. Go nuts. So I've got them, but otherwise like there's so much of this game left to explore that I haven't had spoiled on me yet, which is great.
Yeah, it's pretty infinite in terms of what you can explore, I would say. And yeah, just go nuts. And I think it's more fun with the shrines to just not look anything up, and like, unless you hit an absolute brick wall with a shrine. Yeah. The only time I've hit a brick wall with a shrine is not a shrine puzzle. It's trying to find where it is in the overworld.
Yeah.
And without like giving you spoilers, because it will not be apparent which one it is, there is one that requires literally using your shield to snowboard out of the sky and land in the main world, and go through like a weird assault course to uncover a shrine.
Incredible.
That fucking rules. Yeah. What a game.
Yeah. Let's finish off the show by taking a quick day trip around the crunch of news. This one I thought was really funny. So the sequel nobody asked for, but we're getting 1-2 Switch. There's a new 1-2 Switch coming at the end of June.
Is it 3-4 Switch?
Which is crazy. Oh no, it's called Everybody 1-2 Switch. And one thing that made me very much think of you, Jack, is that the mascot for this is a man in a giant rubber horse head.
Oh, naturally, yeah.
Yeah. So I cannot confirm or deny that it is in fact you on the cover of this game.
Me or Biggs, yeah.
But it's
damn horse guy shout out.
It's really funny because like, so it's kind of like, it's Robin blind from Jackbox, because you don't need just the Joy-Cons for this. For the games on this, they will be compatible with Joy-Cons and smart devices as well. But what I thought was great for this is I had literally seen a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, Fanbyte put out a piece, which was the rumor that this sequel was coming out. But the rumor wasn't just that it was coming out, is that it's coming out and it fucking sucks. So I'll quote from this Games Hub article that then quotes the Fanbyte article. Per Fanbyte, the game was outright hated in playtest, with comments being both horrible and brutal. Feedback was reported to be so bad, releasing the game would have damaged Nintendo's reputation. It was alleged that some employees took to calling the game, quote, horse shit, with many raising alarms about its quality, which I thought was very funny considering horse shit and the mascot for the game is in a giant rubber horse head. Is 1-2 Switch a game that did you play it when it came out on Switch as a launch game on Switch, Jack?
A little bit. I didn't have it, but I played around someone else's gaff.
Yeah, it was like, I remember it being like cute for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like sub Mario Party, WarioWare kind of, but more.
The only one I liked was the Old West Dueling Pistols one.
Yeah,
that was pretty solid.
Do you know what was better?
I was impressed by it. It was one of those. I was impressed by it as a tech demo to show the sensitivity of those Joy-Cons and the HD rumble that they kept going on about and stuff. I did appreciate that. Like, there was that one where one person brings down a katana and you're supposed to like catch it between your hands. How it's able to tell if you caught it or not, I think is very technologically impressive. But what were you saying about puzzle games?
Snipper Clips.
Yeah.
More fun.
Yes.
More fun than this.
Yes, Snipper Clips was great. Snipper Clips and Zelda were the only launch day things worth it.
Yeah, and Zelda was so effing massive, you were just like, well, this will sort me out until Mario Odyssey comes out in October.
Just a word, I can't wait for that, and I really hope Mark plays it, because it feels like just something Mark would intensely despise. Everybody 1-2 Switch.
You bought the the cardboard cutout thing as well.
The Labo.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. That was one of those where the actual construction of that in a very satisfying Lego way was good, but then like nothing about the games that were attached to it once you had built it held my interest in any way.
Yeah.
It was, again, another one of those where it was a fucking mad scientist Nintendo thing, and it was very impressive in some ways, but not as a video game for me, an adult.
Yeah, I think that like it would have sparked some kid's imagination somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
To this, there'll be a kid who was like 8, 9, 10, and that will be their favorite game ever, and you know it will lend them towards a career in being an engineer or something, you know, or like just some fucking Mark Rober's YouTube channel so they can just watch all of his videos. So I think it was a cool. You know, no one else does stuff like Nintendo. They'll just do some strange sideshow stuff, but it does beg the question. This article, like, just how bad can it be? You know?
Yeah.
Because at worst, Nintendo stuff it's all right. You know, I didn't like it because it was dull or, you know, a bit too gimmicky or it was one-dimensional. And I think a lot of the, say, like the Mario sports properties and stuff they've brought out since the Switch has come out, like the golf and the tennis and the football and stuff, very one-dimensional. And that's the main criticism. But
yeah, this
kind of sounds like it's gone in like genuine abomination directions. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see when people are doing let's plays of this how bad it is.
It's a bit like when you hear a movie that like you've seen the trailer for it or something, and you think like, oh, that looks bad, and then all the critics are like, this is really bad, and you become way more excited to watch it. Yeah, exactly.
I just think like that one line in the article about how it's so bad it could damage the reputation of Nintendo is like that. That's a statement. That is.
Yeah. I mean, they'd have to call it like 1-2 Hitler or something if they wanted to damage their reputation. I think if they brought a shitty game out, no one's really going to care. I think that slight over-exaggeration maybe. Unless it is that bad, we'll live to find out.
In a first for this podcast, I think we're going to go to Variety.com next, as shy retiring wallflower Bobby Kotick has spoken out.
I feel like you're doing this just to troll me.
Can I just say that like I don't know, I get the tone of trying to garner a little bit of sympathy and empathy for this guy from the headline in Variety, which is Bobby Kotick breaks his silence, which firstly is funny because the man has not shut the fuck up about all this.
Yeah, when has he ever?
Embattles Activision CEO addresses toxic workforce claims as Microsoft deal hangs in the balance. So we've charted about how like the Microsoft are being challenged on a number of fronts about creating a monopoly, which may, you know, I think we're all on the program against the idea that 4 companies will eventually own everything, but think that the grounds under which they're being accused of forming a monopoly are not the steadiest. However, this has obscured us from for a while from the horror of what a fucking ghastly shambles of a soulless organization Activision Blizzard is behind it all. And now it's funny because as people were focusing on that stuff, it's almost like Bobby Kotick, it's like, you know what people haven't been talking about enough lately is all the horrific allegations against our company. Let's get that back out there for another news cycle, shall we?
Why?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, unless he's trying to kill the deal because he wants to retain control of Activision.
And like this,
is it one of those things where shareholders have said, you have to take this deal, it's way too good?
How are the board not gagging this guy?
I don't get it.
Do you mean like every time he speaks, it fucking damages this company even more?
The share price
like
goes down.
This is a long piece, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there are some fucking pearls in here, and I recommend people read it if you like really enjoy being angry. The top 2 being related is that he still insists that there are no systemic issues with harassment in Activision Blizzard. There are currently, I think, after, like, since he claimed this, there have been 29 more incident reports.
the gall of it.
Yeah. And then when pressed about, like, well, then what's the story here? He blames outside forces.
I blame James Stephanie Starling.
He had a statement. I can't remember if it's in this article or another thing he was saying this week, because I've read a couple of things about him this week. And it was like, he did one of these, look, I'm not anti-union, but like he's basically saying he's a pro-union guy, but there's a very he's basically accusing there being of like an organized labor force against him and the company on a personal level is the tone of what he says. Like,
it's a vendetta against me.
It's the most self-righteous blowhard bullshit, to the point where I really appreciate it. I enjoy harddrive.net, the onion of video game headlines, and they had a headline this week which is Bobby Kotick denies all allegations of abuse that weren't caught on tape.
Oh my god.
But yeah, what do you, oh yeah, so that was the quote, was a very aggressive labor movement is what's behind all this going on for Activision Blizzard. Jack, I will leave the floor open to you. How do you feel about Bobby Kotick's latest foot in mouth?
Oh, he's got no self-awareness whatsoever.
Yeah, who do you think would win in a cringe off between him and Randy Pitchford?
I just think they'd probably end up becoming best friends and own a company together, and it would be horrifying. And who'd want to work for it? But it's a good point you made at the start of this. It's like, how can we allow this man unfettered to go out and speak to the media?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not expecting Activision to have like a spin doctor in there, like they do for the really shitty politicians who just can't keep their mouth shut. But there must be a PR department or something.
But there's a parallel here in my head to Elon Musk.
Of course.
Where, like, it seems to be once you get to a certain level of wealth, no matter how hard you try, the smart people around you can't tell you to shut up anymore. And it exposes what a fucking dumbass you are, that you've somehow failed upwards into this incredibly lucrative position in life.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that Bobby Kotick's family owned an emerald mine or anything.
Well, the smart rich people are the ones who are rich and just stay away from the public eye completely.
Yeah.
They just have their money and they don't get involved in any publicity, and they might have charities that donate things, but they don't speak in the media.
Yes, there is a point to be made that a fair amount of the upsettingly rich people in the world you've never heard of.
Yeah, no, you'll look at a 100, like a top 100 rich people in the world, and you will know maybe a third of it, if that. You might not even know the names, but there might be some like renowned companies on there, and then you'll look at some people on there, and it'll be, they own a company called like Glurban Group, and you're like, Glurban Group, what the hell? And then you realize Glurban Group like own every chain of pharmacy in like America and Canada, and you're like, right, okay. And
it's like there's been that thing going on in American media about like all the fucking the tiers of the right wing trying to boycott Budweiser without realizing how many things Anheuser-Busch owns.
Yeah.
Like if you're in America and you're going to boycott Anheuser-Busch, you are going to have to give up almost all beer plus other things.
Pretty much, right? Yeah. Was it like Target this week that had like one rainbow t-shirt and there was like a right-wing crazy person?
Yes, and I do love that's somebody, that particular right-wing crazy person is somebody who is anti-LGBT yet was exposed, I think, like late last year as having been on gay dating apps for many years.
Of course, yeah. Anyway, Bobby Kotick's a fucking moron.
Yeah.
And there's no better way of putting it than that. And he is deluded and just has no self-awareness and pretty much sums up everything I hate about corporate culture. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I have an opportunity for a segue here once if you're finished that thought.
Just fuck Bobby Kotick, but yes, let's segue into something else.
Speaking of being disgusted with business tactics, EA Sports are partnering with Nike to put NFTs in upcoming titles.
Oh, of course they are.
Are these some of the last people to realize that the NFT ship has sailed? Should we send them the folding ideas a video?
It's all about Web3. It's them and Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
You know. Sorry, Garrett. I hear that was Garrett Kidney's idea as well.
For Jesus Christ!
To launch
he's gonna shout at us now, Garrett. I would never accuse you of such things.
No,
this is why you have heat. This is why he's not on the show.
Yeah.
So the first thing that made me nearly throw up in my mouth was that the NFT wing of Nike is called Dot Swoosh.
Oh,
Sucks so bad. Electronic Arts is taking its first step into blockchain gaming. Like, you always knew EA were going. Like, I'm surprised it's taken EA this long, because they're one of, like, the traditional, like, the EA that was voted multiple times the worst company to work for in America. This is classic them. The people that tried to do bespoke online passes for each game before almost anybody else tried. That thing fucking shit the bed, and, you know, fucking ringing Ultimate Team for all these children for every penny they're worth. These seemed like one of the guys that would soullessly march into NFTs straight away. So in a way, it is kind of weird that it has taken this long. The company announced a partnership with Nike Virtual Studios that will see virtual creations, NFTs, from the shoemaker's Swoosh blockchain business featured in EA Sports games. In future EA Sports titles, EA Sports and Nike plan to make select Swoosh virtual creations available, allowing members and players unique new opportunities for self-expression and creativity through sport and style. Apparently, Swoosh has remained in a closed beta since last November. That same month, EA CEO Andrew Wilson, you may remember him as the cyborg from the E3 press conferences.
Android Wilson, yeah.
Yes. He addressed NFTs in a conference call with investors, saying, I do think it'll be an important part of the future of our business. Like, Jesus Christ, like, fucking read the room, lads. The horse is bolted.
Everybody thinks this virtual blockchain, all of this stuff is, you know, going to be a vital part of the future. And
this is like fucking Dwayne trying to do the XFL again. It's like, lads, it's done. It's done.
Yeah. Why don't people just let well enough alone? I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing that sucks is that I like a lot of EA games, and I really like Nike. Look, I wear Nike trainers almost exclusively.
I will, without fail, buy FIFA every year. I have to.
Yeah, right.
I can't stop myself. It's been. I can't quit.
You're talking to a man who just platinumed the EA Sports PGA Tour golf game as well. Like, I absolutely love Nikes. I love Jordans. Like, I have multiple pairs. I love wearing them, and I just think they're super, like, the coolest trainers. And oh god, it's really painful. Like, no one's saying EA is a good company. And, you know, Nike are probably one of those companies that have done a bunch of stuff that you just, you know, just flies under the radar, that if you, like, scratch the surface a little bit, you probably hate. But, you know, just there's something so off-putting about trying to make NFTs happen now.
Yeah.
Like, now.
Yeah.
Like, why now?
Why now? Stop trying to make Fetch happen. Yeah,
it is. They are trying to make Fetch happen. And there's a Mean Girls musical, is there not?
Yeah, apparently it's very good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I've heard is excellent, actually, speaking of musicals, is the Heathers musical.
I bet that's good, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it's very good. And you know me, it's one of my favourite movies of all time.
Very good movie.
Yeah. Good movie. I think it's the Criterion version of Heathers. I have some sort of deluxe Blu-ray of it here anyway. I must watch it.
It's a classic emo kid movie. Like, if you like emo music, you will love Heathers.
Great style and the art direction as well, with all the, like, the colours pop so much.
Yeah, big time.
Great Winona Ryder, Christian Slater performances.
Yeah, Slater.
Early Shannon Doherty.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, great movie. You mentioned how
EA sucks.
Yeah, how EA sucks. Well, speaking of that, our last news story, EA will lay off the majority of staff at its mobile game studio Fire Monkeys, a new report has revealed. Up to 2/3 of the company's workforce is expected to be let go, according to Kotaku Australia. EA top brass reportedly flew to Fire Monkey's Melbourne office to deliver the news last week. The studio has been working on multiple EA mobile game projects, including Real Racing 3, Need for Speed No Limits, and The Sims Freeplay. Fire Monkeys remain open, though, as a mono-title studio dedicated solely to The Sims Freeplay. Development work on Real Racing 3 and Need for Speed No Limits will now be relocated to their studio in India. This isn't the first setback for Fire Monkeys. Real Racing 4 was previously in development at the studio but was cancelled in 2019 and 50 jobs were lost. Development work on The Sims Mobile was also moved from Fire Monkeys to India in 2021. The most recent cuts to Fire Monkeys come after EA boss Android Wilson recently warned that the company was restructuring its business, the fucking worst word in business speak, with around 775 job losses expected globally. His comment was, as we drive greater focus across our portfolio, we are moving away from projects that do not contribute to our strategy, reviewing our real estate footprint and restructuring some of our teams, Wilson told workers at the company. The decisions are expected to impact approximately 6% of our company's workforce. Yet another story, Jack. We are going through quite a couple of years for a lot of studios really bulked up in the time leading up to and during COVID to meet the demand of a market that was increasingly at home, and now it seems like lots and lots of people are losing their jobs while these companies are still making record profits and would have been making record profits even without the sackings.
Yeah. They just want to make all the money, right? It's just, it's not enough to just make money. You've got to keep that line trending upwards. You would feel sick to your stomach in a week where they've announced a partnership with Nike to make NFTs if you were losing your job.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible when they do stuff like this. And it sounds like all of the redeployment is coming in India because they can assumedly get people to do the exact same work at a very high standard as well. Like there's an insanely deep pool of really incredible, really technical and educated people in India who just don't get paid nearly enough money.
No.
And routinely abused, I think, by, all over the place. Every country that will outsource things to India, it's just, it's shitty. You'd imagine people doing the same jobs for way less pay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, this thing happens in business, I guess, all the time as companies try and, constantly cut back and, chuck big parts of their workforce off. And, it's weirdly things that kind of make share prices go up as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it around the time of we're just like past the point where a lot of companies are kind of posting their previous year's results, like from a financial year that would have ended at like the end of March, and then you go over your sort of early April kind of like sort of adjustments and working out all of the stuff, and then you kind of announce your results, and depending on how that goes, the market kind of take a look at, all right, is this company profitable? What kind of direction are they headed in? And I'm guessing, like, if the shareholders at EA weren't particularly pleased with how things were going, then if you announce a bunch of cuts to your workforce, your share price usually goes up, and people are happier because it means they get paid more dividends from the company. And it's, horrible, cynical, shitty way to operate, but it's not just the video game industry that does it. It's all big business, unfortunately. And I kind of hope all these people who are obviously like talented, creative people, if you're working for a great company like EA, not in terms of the way it treats people, but just in terms of the products it produces, I hope they can all like find jobs, go off, do their own thing, create their own video games, go Mark Robinson style and make a video game, or go and work for other smaller studios and be a leading light in creating something awesome somewhere else. Good luck to everyone who's lost their job, and fucking stand in solidarity. And goddamn, does that industry ever need unions?
Hey, do you want one of those stories that ended with a nice little happy upside at the very end of this week, right before we recorded?
Absolutely. So
something I think we had talked about on the show before, as a number of us are quite big fans of theirs, Waypoint shut down this week.
Yeah.
And I have been loving their way of counting down to the end, which was to do the Majora's Mask on May 30th, dawn of the first day, 72 hours remain, and then proceed to do that for the last 3 days. But as Waypoint Sundown, we were all very sad. A new podcast called Remap showed up. And it is the Waypoint gang under their own name. They're independent. They were seemingly in, I don't know how they were able to do it, but my understanding from listening to the start of their podcast is they were able to take the architecture of their Waypoint Plus subscription and its subscribers with them.
Nice.
So now those feeds and that subscription service is redirected towards all the remap stuff, and
that's incredible.
Yeah. Like they don't seem to have been able to advertise. Like it was one of those, like they had to wait until it was shut to say anything about it. Because like it just popped up this morning. They had hinted about it, that they were going to do something else. But yeah, they have the gang that were there at the end, it's them again. And they're kind of figuring out things as they go, but they're going to have a model where you get like the main podcast is free, but it has ads, and then like your subscription model is going to have like, you know, exclusive pods and ad-free pods and stuff like that. And there's kind of a 2 tiers, and you could either do it as a monthly or a yearly thing. And I think the yearly for just the ad-free plus the bonus is like 60 quid, which is quite reasonable for something like that. You know, that's cheaper for a year than most like average Patreons will cost you.
Yeah, $5 a month.
Yeah. So that works out pretty good. But yeah, big shout out to those guys. Good to see them still in the space, because I had worried, as much as it was like some grim gallows humor on the one where they had just found out they were fired before they recorded. I would have been really sad if Rob and Klepik, who I would know the longest, if they had seemed like they might have been disenchanted enough to not do stuff in this space anymore. And that would have been a terrible shame. But yeah, hopefully we get to see them do exciting stuff now that they're out on their own, and they're kind of like, they don't have fucking weird ass voice media to answer to anymore.
But yeah, exactly. We said the same thing with like, you know, spin-off like Nextlander and
Gersman.
You know, Gersman doing his own thing.
Gersman, who's having another baby as well.
Wow, amazing.
Announced on stream this week.
Yeah, awesome. I think these people have got like such a good, strong fan base.
Yeah.
It just becomes very easy for them to go off. And the fact that they've just been able to take all of their subscription models and all of their kind of clients.
It's also good for the, like, because I had this feeling with that subscription model that Vice were just going to be like, no, we're keeping the money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And those subscribers would be fucked then. But thankfully it's not come to that.
No, I think that Vice isn't that company either. You know?
I mean, if you hear some of the stories, they were kind of able to beat around the bush. They started becoming that company.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, all creative entities start out as just want to do something fun with my friends and end with lawyers and boring banker people carving everything up and selling off. But yeah, great news.
Yeah, great news.
Draw.
Great news for the guys. Anyway, we're going to leave it there for Link to the Cast this week. Thank you very much for listening in. At Link to the Cast, where you need to follow us on Twitter. Keep up to date with the shows as they're posted. See what we've been playing, what we've been watching, and recommend stuff to us as well. Please do that as much as you would like, and comment on what you've been enjoying on the shows, etc., etc. Individually, I'm at the Day to Dave. The absent Mark Robinson is at the End Project. The also absent Garrett Kidney is at Garrett Kidney, and the stalwart co-host here, Jack Lazell, is at Jack Lazell. We shall see you again next week for another episode of Link to the Cast, but until then, farewell and be safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.